Greetings, all! Today, we'll be examining the common water-type Pokemon Basculin, the Mellow Pokémon in the case of White-Striped Basculin, and its exceptionally rare Water Ghost-type evolution Basculegion, the Big Fish Pokémon. Vicious or placid, whichever type you come across, the members of the Basculin family are unique fish that can potentially be a hassle to handle if their behavior is allowed to go out of control.
Basculin exists in three completely distinct forms, known collectively as red-striped, blue-striped, and white-striped Basculin. While the three groups are practically identical in terms of internal anatomy and the possession of green bodies with a series of 3 black dots along the torso and black stripes, they all exhibit distinct external morphological differences. While red-striped Basculin have wide red eyes, a red stripe running down their sides, and spiky-edged fins, blue-striped Basculin have narrow blue eyes, a blue stripe running down their sides, and relatively smooth-edged fins. And white-striped Basculin share the fin form of blue-striped Basculin and the eye structure of red-striped Basculin, only with white eyes. Their evolved form Basculegion have different forms depending upon their gender, as while they both have massive green bodies with a large dorsal fin near the back of their body, males have red body markings along their face, body, and lower jaw like a beard, red spiritual energy radiating from their bodies, and female Basculegion lack the beard-like markings and have their body patterns and energy colored white.
Although much speculation still surrounds the claim, it seems that red and blue-striped Basculin today are possibly undergoing the process of sympatric speciation.
In traditional modes of speciation, a sort of barrier, whether it be geographical, genetic, or some other feature, is needed to isolate two separate groups of a single species long enough to ensure that they develop into two separate species that do not interbreed with one another. In the case of sympatric speciation, however, a single species will diverge into multiple species, despite the fact that there is no barrier isolating group members. In addition, it is likely that interbreeding would still be common in the early stages, as not even genetics present a barrier. It is noted, however, that this method of speciation is extremely rare to see in nature among animals, and the exact manner in which it arises is variable and still being studied, but when it comes to examples among Pokemon, it would be hard to find a better case study than Wild Basculin. While the two most common groups, red and blue-striped Basculin, are practically identical in terms of internal anatomy, as noted, they both exhibit distinct and noted external morphological differences. Moreover, the abilities that Basculin can possess are different depending upon which type of Basculin one is looking at. While both types can possibly have the adaptability ability, red-striped Basculin can also have the reckless ability, while blue-striped Basculin can have the rock head ability. For non-trainers though, these differences matter little, as Basculin of all types are actually quite delicious when cooked right, and in turn are a popular food staple within the Unova region. With all of this said, however, it is now believed that the original variant that red and blue-striped Basculin descended from may be found in the form of white-striped Basculin, a unique variety that is exclusively found within the ancient waters of the Hisui region. This variation has physical characteristics that seem to take from both the forms of red and blue-striped Basculin, and because they otherwise have access to a similar set of moves and powers, it seems likely that they are the original form of these two kinds, and have only managed to stay in their current state because of the more isolated waterways beneath and around the various plots of both fresh and salt water found in the region. What makes these variants especially interesting, however, aside from their position of rattled or adaptability as base abilities, is that they are actually incredibly gentle in stark contrast to other variants, and are actually so shy that they rarely ever show themselves for more than a few moments in the water before bolting from sight if they detect an approaching lifeform that they feel threatened by. In the Hisui region, these creatures would often travel upstream to higher elevations to breed and lay their eggs in peace before passing away, but the journey is often incredibly harsh for them, and most of their kind do not make the journey fully, oftentimes dying in the process, trying to navigate the craggy, rocky pathways used to get to said elevations. Even so, they still possess the same general power as Basculin, and thus can be an annoying beast to fight against, especially if they can make good use of their wave crash attack to blitz through potential predators with notable power. Moreover, red and blue-striped Basculin that exist today have seemingly lost the capacity to evolve in any way as a result of a change in their overall demeanor and behavior, but in ancient times their white-striped variant could actually use its greater sense of emotional and spiritual depth to make themselves into much greater forces to contend with. Though it is hard to explain why currently, it seems that the mellow behavior of these variants allows them to more readily take in the experience of making a journey upstream on an emotional level, remembering as they fight that many countless fellow Basculin have died in the process of trying to reach the high ground to breed at. In extremely rare cases, this can cause them to absorb the souls that fill the waters of the region in turn, and once they manage to reach the high ground they seek to mate and produce offspring, if they have absorbed or otherwise been possessed by the right number of souls, they can then ascend to a higher plane of spiritual existence and evolve into Basculegion. This process has proven to be incredibly difficult to replicate under the same sort of conditions, but it has also been observed that the same process can be replicated in a more physical form, namely in regards to receiving recoil damage from certain attacks. Psychologically, these fish take in every point of damage they do to themselves in executing moves like Double Edge and Wave Crash, and use them as a representative of the fellow fish that have passed away. As such, once they have accumulated a total of 294 points of damage over time, not counting anything that would cause them to fade, they can undergo the same evolutionary process, making the task of actually evolving them easier than nature might otherwise trigger in the wild.
In regards to the possible sympatric speciation, it is not just the appearance and genes of red and blue striped Basculin, however, that suggests that these fish are beginning to diverge from one another. It's also primarily their attitude, highlighted in the titular title of the Thug of the Lake, as they are called by some.
While these Basculins share common traits with bass and piranhas, and are generally savage and violent against lifeforms that tread within their territory unannounced, to the point where the vicious temperament will drive away all of the Pokemon except for creatures like Corphish and Crawdont, they absolutely can't stand differently colored members of their own species being in what they claim to be their territory, and will viciously attack different colored Basculin the moment they see any. The reasoning behind such drastic behavior is still a complete mystery, but it strikingly resembles the human race in that both groups, despite being of the same species, believe that they are superior to the other group. Aside from some genetic differences responsible for their external features, however, Basculin of both colors are genetically very similar and thus able to breed normally with no dominant gene controlling which color the young will be. In the case of separately colored parents, young of both colors will often be born with little favor towards either the mother or the father's coloration. Furthermore, Basculin of a certain color have even been witnessed on rare occasions to actually swim with a school of oppositely colored Basculin and are treated no differently than they would if they were of the same color. This highly abnormal behavior indicates the morphological differences separating these two groups are a fairly recent addition to the species as a whole, and that speciation may be starting to occur within the population, albeit very slowly as already discussed. Sympatric speciation is still relatively perplexing, and it is difficult to study its causal mechanisms as a result of its rarity and observable nature, but with Basculin as the prime case in the Pokemon world at the moment, it is hoped that they will be able to shed light on the strange pattern of speciation in time, and further define limiting factors that can lead to such a pattern of diversification. At the very least, it can be said that as a whole, the species is rambunctious and loved by fishermen for the fight they put up, and there are always plenty to go around, as they are often illicitly dumped into rivers in large numbers for fishing. This is mainly because they are said to be quite delicious and were very popular in older times, with red Basculin having a fattier taste popular with children, while blue Basculin have a lighter, more inoffensive flavor to them. While the evolution Basculegion are normally known to be quiet and docile towards most others, they readily show perhaps where the hostile nature of red and blue striped Basculin evolved from, for if they are perturbed sufficiently, they will turn incredibly vicious and will actively attack with the power of the numerous souls that lay inside of them. Moreover, these souls are said to be able to think and act on their own, driving Basculegion to act even if they otherwise would not, thus making their existence a bit disjointed and difficult for them to always control. Despite this, these creatures have a tremendous reputation, as they are said to have been only one of a select group of Pokemon that were blessed with cosmic power by Arceus in the times of the Hisui region, the precursor to the modern Sinnoh region, and served as a guardian of the Cobalt coastlands they once called home. Aside from this, these creatures are noteworthy not just the moves they can learn naturally that are otherwise inaccessible to their pre-evolved form, namely the Hex and Shadow Ball attacks, but the overall appearances and base stats are known to differ wildly depending upon what gender they may be. On the one hand, while both suffer a moderate drop in the base speed stat upon evolving, male Basculegion follow the attributes of their pre-evolved form most directly, as they feature a moderately increased base attack stat and are noted for the brilliant red markings on their bodies. Female Basculegion, on the other hand, have white patterns on their frame and are noted for having a moderately increased base special attack stat, in turn allowing the females to make the most of the new ghost-type powers that have been bestowed upon them naturally, and thus better represent the countless spirits comprising them. Regardless, the two are otherwise very similar in terms of the overall combat attributes, as while both of them are not built to resist damage heavily, the base defense and special defense stats being below average for a fully evolved water and ghost-type Pokemon, they more than make up for this with above average base HP, attack, and speed stats for a fully evolved Pokemon of their types, plus females have an above average base special attack stat for a fully evolved ghost-type Pokemon, making them both big targets and big threats to those that can't knock them out quickly.
These fish are one big massive yikes to me, and I can definitely say that they are not a type of fish I would like to see anywhere other than my dinner plate. While I can state that at the very least, white-striped Basculin are fine to be around, their red-striped and blue-striped descendants are brutish monsters that will gladly attack and destroy anything and everything that dares to get in their way, and can be extreme nuisances to work with as a consequence. Their limited defenses really don't help them out all that much as well, as they can barely take a hit on a little more than vicious berserkers in battle in many cases. Even so, those who manage to become Basculegion can look and act rather majestically in a lot of cases, and while that particular evolution might be all but gone now, the legends that have been passed down about their gift from Arceus still live on, and render them a fish to be revered by many. Either way you slice it, these species can be a bit of an annoyance to those that have to confront them, if not potentially much more, and it's likely only getting the heck away from them when they're irate will prove to be an effective defense against their otherwise hostile attacks.
They might not be the sturdiest of beasts to many, or seemingly come off as much of a threat to many outside of their temperament, but the members of the Basculin family can still prove to be dangerous fish to encounter without serious protection. You may need to go out of your way to try and find an extremely rare white-striped Basculin if you really want to evolve them into their maximum potential, but it can still be worth it for the sheer power they can bring to any fight.
Just do yourself a favor and make sure that you keep your hand away from the sharp mouths if you want to keep your fingers. White-striped Basculin might not be all that bad, but any other color should be a massive warning flag that you might want to get away from them as soon as you spot one if you don't want to lose more than a few digits from their biting maws.
Thank you for watching this video. It brings me great joy to be able to speak to you all in the world each and every time we meet like this, to explore the many different facets of both the world of Pokemon as we know it, and the world as we live it, through every adventure we have with Pokemon by our side. If you'd like to, please subscribe, ring the bell and all that jazz, to keep yourself updated on content uploads and other materials of the like. You can also follow me on Twitter if you'd like to know right away when something new is uploaded, and my written works, from which most of this is based on, can be found on DeviantArt. Links to both can be found in the description down below. Remember that the world of Pokemon is a place full of wonder and mystery, and you never know what to expect. So, stay vigilant, keep watch, and always be prepared for the unexpected. Until next time, trainers and friends of all sorts, have a wonderful time.